Hello, my name is Megan Landry, and I'm currently a lead product designer at Experian. What that means is I own all things credit cards. So if you log in or get an email or go on and tap on credit cards in the browser, you will see everything that I've had a hand in. I I'll get into my role a little bit later on, but being lead product designer is basically just another way of saying I do UX and UI. So I own that experience for all the various logged in states and the different customers and all the different touch points. I've been at Experian for about 7 months now, and I love it. I'll go over some of my past jobs and things also, and go over those. And it's amazing how if you find the right company and a company with great people that you interact well with, that you will most surely love your job. I guess that speaks true for life in general. If you find your people, then you will probably stick around and enjoy it. All right, I'll go to the next slide. I was born and raised in San Diego. I did briefly move to Long Beach for school, and then I promptly moved back after graduation. I'm a huge ocean person. I swim in the ocean year round, and I surf and I bodyboard, and I'm also a big fan of the mountains. I climb. There's me climbing in Red Rocks, which is out near Las Vegas. It's beautiful if you have not been there. I like to hike and backpack. I was just in the Sierras and I got hailed on, and we had to escape in the middle of the night. It was very exciting. Camp and all that. I'm also permanently remote. When I got hired at Experian, the role was permanently remote. And during COVID, all of the offices shut down, and I begrudgingly worked from home. I lived alone at the time, and it was really hard and really lonely. And I loved being in the office. I wouldn't say I'm a people person per se. I like having my own space and my own anonymity, but being around other people, and certainly better than living alone and not seeing anyone for days on end, was really hard for me. I liked being in the office and grabbing a coffee with people, and it took me a long time to get used to not having that. But now that I'm permanently remote, I really enjoy it. My partner's also permanently remote, so we're gonna try and work 2 months from Hawaii in 2023. So if you can do it, don't knock it. I don't know how that will be for all of you guys entering the workforce at this day and age. Maybe in our Q&A, you guys can tell me what your expectations for that are, because I'm very curious. I love the creative work that I do at Experian, but I still need to feed my soul, and I do a lot of creative work on my own. I do ceramics. I'm still really drawn to the thing that drew me to industrial design in the first place, the three-dimensional form. I do ceramics, very three-dimensional. I do paper, like building the paper crafts and wood. It still very much speaks to me. And I think if you're a creative person, you really can't or shouldn't, I don't like telling people what they should do, but you can't really always rely on your creative job to satisfy you, to satisfy your soul. I think that it can lead to burnout and just getting stale. I get a lot of inspiration from doing ceramics, and building things and using gouache and painting and just getting creative. It keeps me on my toes and gives me ideas for my work, which is always helpful, right? This is my timeline. So this is kind of the career my path has taken. I did start at San Diego State because I'm in San Diego. I graduated from high school, and it was the logical place for me to go after I graduated from high school. It's kind of where I started when I knew I liked design. Okay, well, I'm going to spend all my time in the art department. They didn't have a design department. And they had applied design major, which is you just do all the things, right? You do ceramics, you do metal, you do wood, you draw, you paint, you do all those things. So that's what I got into. And it wasn't until maybe my third year that I took 3D form class. And the instructor was like, "You're badass at this. You should do industrial design." And I'm like, "That is a job?" I had no idea that industrial design was a job. It blew my mind, and immediately started Googling schools. Long Beach came up. I went and did a visit. I talked to Jose, actually. He was in one of the computer lab rooms, and so he convinced me that it was a good idea to transfer over, and I did, and I'm glad he did. And in there, you can see right below, I've highlighted some of the skills and the things that I learned, right? So design, sketching, I'm sure they are very much the same ones you guys are learning now. Problem solving, critical thinking, time management, these are all hugely important. I have highlighted in golden the ones that are soft skills, and then in black are the hard skills, right? So the difference between those are kind of what you've learned versus, innate interpersonal skills, right? Then after graduation, I worked as a junior designer at Gadlight, which is the light bulb. It's like a local little firm that the owner of that company designed like our trolleys and the WD-40 jar. He was very talented. I did learn a lot about CMF and design process and consumer research. That was one of my big forays into consumer research. They had a team there. I only worked there for like a year or so. And actually, I don't know, Max, you may remember or know Scott Gant. At the time, he was, yeah. I think he's in IDSA. At the time, he was the head of design at Kodak. And he was a guest lecturer, or at least came to visit us, I think maybe for one of our reviews or something, our portfolio reviews. And he called me up and said, "I remember you, I liked you, we had a conversation, you seemed enthusiastic, and I want you to come work for Kodak." Seemed a little boring to me at the time, but he promised to me, and he actually said, you won't be in the industrial design department, but we'll get you there, and you have to work with the industrial, you will work with the industrial designer. So I said, okay, sounds great. I ended up doing primarily the front panel UI. And then I worked with the industrial design team. It's like the little panel. So it was the printers. I don't think I said that. It was their printer department. So I designed the little interface. That was the beginning of my UI. And I kind of fell in love with it. I learned a lot about collaborating and apps. And I have a background in graphic design, so did a lot of graphics. They were happy. I think that's probably why he called me up, because my graphics were strong. I learned a lot about the UX process and then observation. And that's where, I started doing testing and working with development teams. And that was hugely valuable. I really see the transition from industrial design to UX as being a natural one. It's almost as though, industrial design is the 3-dimensional version and UX UI is the 2-dimensional version, right? The goal is ultimately the same. You're problem solving. You are optimizing an experience for a specific user and task. And whether your mind thinks 3-dimensionally or 2-dimensionally, it's up to you, but mine, I think, maybe does both. It was a logical transition for me. And I actually had a manager once say that some of the best UI, UX people that he's ever worked with started out as industrial designers. So take that. HP was next, and I'll actually go over HP and Experian in more detail on the next few slides, but these were the two places where I've spent the majority of my career. And I learned a lot more at HP and Experian than all the rest. And you'll see that the golden type text gets a lot more under those two positions, because you start learning a lot more about interpersonal skills the further you go in your career, but I'll get into that in a minute. So at HP, I didn't include a ton of my work, but one of the things that I did own at my nearly 10 years at HP was I owned the app, the smart app, and it was given to me in that far left image, and you can see slowly over the years the iterations, and you can almost like really see the steps and the progress to what it is today. And one of the, I mentioned I was there for nearly 10 years. It was over 9 years. I round up. I feel like you can do that if it gets that long. Oh, hold on, my earbud fell out. Shaking my head too much. One of the reasons I stayed at HP for so long was because I kept learning so much. Every year or two, I would be put into a different position, which was great. I was stoked about that. I got to learn a whole new set of skills and interact with a whole new group of people and own different things, and it kept it fresh for me. And I think that was one of the things that HP really excelled at. Um, and um, and on the left-hand side, you can see a lot of the skills that I learned while at HP. Again, those are kind of the hard skills, the things I owned, right? The front panel, again, more printers, I know. They don't seem very exciting, but I promise when you're like in the design, you're not really focused about the product necessarily. You're like really focused about in creating this great experience for the users, and everyone has to eventually print. I was responsible for the native apps, the desktop apps, the websites, again, with the graphics, did a lot of testing at HP as well. And then on the right-hand side, you can see a lot of the leadership skills, the soft skills, right? Communication, organization, compromise, and at HP is where I finally discovered what I call my superpower. It's a soft skill that you are just innately good at, right? So my soft skill that I'm innately good at, my superpower, is herding cats. It's creating order out of chaos. It's systems thinking. It's organization generally. I was put in charge of a new domain, CRM, which you can see there, and actually design systems. I did their first design system, which is like components and elements that you can, so that all designers are using and sourcing from the same source of truth, and so all of your designs are consistent. It's that kind of the same systems thinking. And this other team though, the CRM team, they had a completely different process than us. They were using different software. They were completely organized differently, and learned about their needs and how they laid out a process for our two teams to work together. And they were able to keep their Kanban board. We kept our Agile board. Hopefully you guys don't know what those things are. It's Jira. You will probably learn them eventually. Max is smiling because he must know what Jira is. And they were able to keep their software. We kept ours. It was great. And my brain just kind of works that way. And I enjoy it, most importantly. And it's totally a superpower because it's something that I enjoy and that I am good at, right? At Experian, unfortunately, I cannot show you a ton of the work that I've done at Experian because I've only worked here for 7 months and none of it has been released, but you can see the app and the website. You can also go on, and I encourage you to create accounts and, I don't know, get a credit card, see your credit score. Same broad strokes, native apps, desktop, website. I own all the credit card stuff, so those are not either of those images, but you can go on and see those. And a lot more working across multiple teams than at HP. They're just structured a little bit differently. So one of the things I love about Experian is that they are way more focused. I get to be more focused. I own that domain, and the roles and responsibilities are clearly outlined, which is great. There's no ambiguity. I can focus solely on creating the best experience through testing and iteration, where our testing team is amazing. When you have team members that do their job, and there's really clear lines of structure, and it makes everyone's job a lot easier. There's a product team that owns the roadmap, and I own the experience. It's great. I was originally hired, in fact, because a coworker told my manager that I was good at herding cats. Um, and so those roles and responsibilities being more defined makes my job easier. And I can dive deeper into every single thing that I deliver. And we test a lot. Like I said before, it's a really cool place to work, somewhere as large as HP, but you get to see how differently things can be organized. Um, and, you know, and I don't know, it's interesting the further you are along in your career, how you can start comparing places that you've worked. And in large part, the soft skills and the hard skills are about the same, but this talk specifically is going to focus on the soft skills and how success is about skills, but not the ones that you think. And I'm going to focus on superpowers. And I know that in school, when you guys are, learning about CAD, I'm assuming you guys still learn CAD, and sketching and, all the things that I listed back under Long Beach. There are certain skills that are crucial if you want to be a successful designer, or a successful leader or manager at that, if you want to be successful at anything, specifically certain skills for designers. And in school, you're learning those model making and sketching skills, and they're super important. But after 15 years in the design industry, those skills can be attained by anyone who's willing to spend time learning them. It's really the successful people I've seen are the ones who have those soft skills. It's the people who can talk to others. It's the people who can connect, the people who can get up in front of a room and engage with everybody. Is the people who can manage. When you have an amazing manager, they make you feel like, I don't want to say you're the only person in the room, but like that they care and they value you and your time. And ultimately, those are soft skills. And since you guys are all going to be finding jobs soon, finding the right job for you ultimately comes down to matching your own unique set of hard, not so unique, but your own unique set of soft skills to the right position and company. So let's go over some of the soft skills, right? What are soft skills? It's emotional intelligence, like it says there. They're innate skills that are often interpersonal in nature. It's your attitude, really. It's your personality trait. It's what makes you good at leading a group or delivering that great presentation. It's about being punctual. It's whatever makes you you. And each of you has one of these or multiple that you are really just innately good at. And I didn't know mine until I was at HP, actually. So I was already a few jobs in. Sometimes it takes a while. If you're lucky, maybe you already know what yours is. Maybe you have a few, and it's ultimately what sets you apart from everybody else, though. And it's what many employers are going to be looking for when they hire people. So yes, you list out your hard skills when, on your resume, and they will ask you about that. But in an interview, what they're really looking for are your soft skills. Can you collaborate with people? Can you communicate well? How does your brain work? Are you organized? Are you time management? Can you manage your own time? Were you late? Are you punctual, right? Are you patient and honest? And what's your work ethic like? Because those are the things that really, to employers, make you a successful employee. And of course, we can't go without talking about the hard skills, right? So what's the other side of that coin? And like it says, these are often learned. These can be quantified, measured. There's a little bit of gray area, right? It's not hard and fast, black and white. I kind of think of these as being something that you could take a class in. You can be trained in these. Oftentimes it's listed as like a qualification or skills on a resume. And hard skills are hugely important. You would not be able to succeed without them. You've been trained to do a particular job. You are going to school to be trained as industrial designers, and these are, huge. But if you're looking at jobs, these are going to be the things that are the requirements. Um, and you could say that hard skills are what you maybe are specialized in. And increasing your hard skills will definitely add value to you as an asset, as an employee. However, you don't live in a bubble, and you ultimately will need to interact with other humans. And it's those skills, those soft skills, that will come into play then, especially as designers, right? Our entire goal is to work for our user, right? To make their lives easier and better and funner and faster. And it's interacting with people that's our jam, right? As designers, it is what we should be focusing on, is that human connection, right? So as designers, what soft skills are important? Being designers and industrial designers at that, we most likely share a lot of the same soft skills or superpowers. I just think superpowers sounds funner. So which skills are the most important for designers? The answer is, first and foremost, whichever one you have, that's going to be the most important. But I've isolated three here that are really big for designers in general, right? That make us effective designers. These also make you an effective leader in general as well. So empathy, let's dive into the first one. I'm sure you guys have all heard that you need to have empathy to be a good designer, and it is true. A few people will argue with that, but they're still ultimately agreeing with that. I'm referring to a few, Norman, what's his name? Yeah, and I can't remember his first name, but anyway, he kind of argues with the empathy thing, but he ultimately agrees with it. Empathy is absolutely a requisite for being a good designer. And in order to design a solution for your user, you need to understand their perspective and what they may be thinking and feeling. Testing is huge in this. Like, I feel being observant, and it actually also says many designers are innately empathetic and observant, and these two skills often go together. And it's true. I have done lots of testing before, and I could just sit and watch people interact with products and software all day and imagine what they're thinking and feeling, and it's super fascinating to me. It's one of the reasons that testing is so important. There's feedback that they'll give you, and then there's feedback that you'll observe what they're actually doing and actually failing, and you can really connect with someone when you watch that struggle. I know that sounds horrible, but I think understanding how your customer or your user feels is hugely important, and it helps you become a better designer. And then there's collaboration. Collaboration is a multifaceted one. Being good at collaborating means that you're an effective communicator, you work well with others, you can give and take feedback, you can brainstorm and build ideas with other people, you can problem solve together. There's so many things that this is, that this affects and has to do with. Especially when working remote, collaboration also looks a little different, right? You need to be able to provide all kinds of feedback in a different way. You need to be a little bit more flexible, which actually leads to the next one, adaptation, right? So this one is really all about being flexible. As designers, it's really easy to get attached to our ideas and our solutions, but I don't want to be mean, but get over that right now. Your job as a designer is to come up with a good solution given a set of requirements and limitations. And these things will change, guaranteed. Programs will change, requirements will change, programs will get canceled altogether. It has nothing to do with your design. People will have their own opinions. Usually it's like some executive's wife didn't like the color blue. It has nothing, it happens. Those people might supersede you, maybe they don't, but you still need to adapt, be flexible. I remember having a class, I think we were juniors, and we did a class with the graphic design department. And I think we were pretty good at graphics at the time because we had all been designing our own labels and things like that anyway. I was not pleased with the person I got paired up with. And Dave Tubner told me, if you are happy with 50% of this project, then you have to deem that a success. And ultimately, I mean, he was right on. At the core of that, it's you can only be in charge of what you know can be in charge of. And sorry, I apologize. My ears are not holding my earbuds. And I've actually carried that with me the entire time since that. So empathy, collaboration, and adaptation. I think as designers, these three soft skills are hugely important to be successful. And if you don't have any of these, how to find your superpower? Well, pay attention for the most part, right? This whole page is really about self-awareness, I guess. When you are in your future job or you are in class and you're in school now, what parts of those projects and those processes do you find interesting? Is it when they hand you the project and you get to go and sketch? Or is it when you get to jump on the computer and do that process? Is it when you present? Is it when you brainstorm? There's a certain, piece of every process that is going to appeal to different people. And within that is going to be something that you excel at just innately, that you are good at. And maybe it is CAD, but there's something else there. There's some soft skill that's going to make you different from everybody else, because there's probably other people that are good at CAD, right? Number two is going to be ask a friend. If you don't know, maybe your mom knows. Maybe your, friend that sits next to you all the time knows. Maybe it's Max knows. They have been watching you. They probably know a lot more about you than you think. Their job is to be observant. Ask those that you have worked with. Ask friends that you went to high school with. Phone a friend, Number three, explore. Get out there and proactively put yourself in different roles. Like I said, it wasn't until I was in my third or fourth job that I found my superpower. And it wasn't until years into that role that they put me in this new role, and I was like, yeah, I love this and I'm good at it. This is awesome. And it probably I didn't even have the skills to truly be good at it until that point. So you got to get out there, put yourself in different positions, and roles and projects. And the more you know, the better off you are to find out your superpower. And then number four, be patient, which gets back to I didn't find mine, until I was at HP. Timing is everything. And it, often takes the right project, the right job, the right person to highlight that. Maybe oftentimes it's the right manager that sees that in you. So self-awareness is huge for how to find your superpower, and patience. And then this last slide here is how to supercharge your superpower. And then what's next? So how to supercharge your superpower. If you don't know what your superpower is yet, which I'd be shocked if you did. If you do, rad, that's awesome. You hone in on that. If you don't though, don't worry about it. Take a course. There are a bunch of interpersonal courses that of all kinds that can teach you how to be an effective leader, how to collaborate better, how to be a better communicator. Anything that interests you, take a class in it. There are online classes all over the place. Give more presentations, not just so that you're better at presenting, but when you sign up for presentations, you are engaging with all kinds of different parts of a puzzle, right? So you have to put something together. There's organization. You have to interact with other people just to get your presentation together. And who are you going to deliver it to? You're going to be interacting with people. You're going to be doing different things. Toastmasters was huge for me. I met so many people. I learned so many things from other people about confidence even. So give more presentations, more group projects, interact with people. I don't know how many group projects you guys do at this point. Group projects are just different in my, I don't know how you guys do them, and I don't really want to make a comment on that, but like group projects when you're in a job versus in school, like they're just, you get things from people, you do your thing, and then you hand it off. I feel like it's a little bit different in school, but do more group projects, work with more people. You will find a piece of that structured project that you like more, like loop into that, like log on to that. And get feedback from your teachers. Like I said, Max probably knows you better than you know yourself in that way, employers and friends. And then the other one that was really huge for me is get a mentor. This person can really be anyone. It can be your teacher. It can be someone in your industry, not in your industry. My mentors have mentors. Like everyone needs someone that they can bounce ideas off of. They can go and ask, like, what do you think I'm good at? Like, what's your opinion of this? Hugely important for many of the professionals that I know have mentors. And what's next is how to highlight yours on your resume. Call it out. Like you will be listing out your skills, your hard skills, list out your soft skills. Like, do not be ashamed. I am great at communicating. I am great at storytelling. I am great at connecting with people and brainstorming and whiteboarding and like, you know, getting in there and whatever yours is. Highlight that. Do not be afraid. And in an interview, employers want to hear stories about how your soft skills helped you save the day and succeed on this group project or this one thing. Like that will give them insight into who they're hiring more than a list of your hard skills and a list of the programs that you know, or even like your portfolio. They're hiring you. They want you as a person. So tell them stories about that. They will love that. And then I think this is hugely important is, you know, I said that when I was mentioning Experian, that I love the people there, and bringing your true self to school and to work will be one of the most important things you do. It's kind of like let your freak flag fly and you'll find your tribe kind of a thing, is that if you are authentically you, you will find a group of people and an employee that wants to let you be you and let your superpower like emerge. They will foster that. They will create a position. And I do want to hear from you guys because at Experian, this was the first time I had ever experienced this, is in the interview, they're like, well, what are you interested in? We want to create your hard skills. Cool. You check all the boxes, but what are you interested in? We want to create a position for you that will make you happy. Do you want to push pixels? Do you want to give presentations? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? Versus previous jobs where it was like, this is our job. Do you fit in this box? These are the skills. These are the things. These are all the things that you have to do. And you can't really color outside those lines very much. So if you are authentically yourself, you will find, you know, getting the job that fits you instead of the other way around. And then let's connect. There's my email address if you guys want to hit me up. And I thank you for my TED Talk.
Thank you, Megan.
These earbuds are driving me nuts. Oh, that's terrible.
Right. So before we go into Q&A, I actually have a couple of questions that I want to ask before we hop into student questions. There's a term that you use, and I've heard this a lot in corporate design, is owning. So whether it's owning a segment or what have you, can you explain that a little more? Because I don't know that gets covered in design school very much.
For sure. And maybe that's kind of what I meant by it, a group project is just different when you are in, a professional career versus in school, is that I own the credit card experience. So I am responsible for it through and through entirely. We have the product team, which, they do the roadmap, they do okay, we want to, through a variety of means, we've figured out that we really want to push this pre-approved credit cards. Okay, cool, pre-approved. And they kind of like suggest ways roughly that they want to do that, and then it's up to me to decide for the user what the best way to promote pre-approved credit cards are, for example, right? So when I own that, that means that I'm responsible for that whole experience. And I think it is understood that the product team owns certain things. I think I may have said swim lanes. So my swim lane is all the credit card stuff, and everyone has their roles and responsibilities is the same thing as swim lanes. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. I appreciate it. I hopefully, if any of the students have any further questions about that, they may add in. I would just wanted to see if you would clarify that. So I appreciate it. Another that I had was, what kind of collaboration tools do you use since you're working all remotely?
Oh, Figma. I love Figma. This presentation was done in Figma. Are you guys learning Figma at all?
I don't know if it's taught specifically, but some instructors, I think, have used applications like that. There's a few different ones that some of the instructors have been utilizing throughout the pandemic lockdown to try to
Sure.
collaborate
Yeah.
better.
Figma. So at HP, we were, and this is funny because Adobe just bought Figma, which is hugely disruptive. They have their own UX UI software called XD, and it sucks. It's just not. They tried. It is a huge ask, and they were not able to deliver. And so we've all industry wide moved over to Figma, and they just do everything so well. I mean, I can share my screen after this if we want. Can get into Figma with everyone in your group. Our whole team is permanently remote, and we have people in Florida, unfortunately, right now, like Ohio, all over the place. And we did a retro today, and we all met on a board, and we were given like high fives. You can like move your hand around and like it animates. You can like in real time see who's leaving comments, and I mean, it is different than being in the office, surely. Whiteboarding in many ways is like, I want to sketch on a board. You guys can't see where I am, but there's like canvases and stuff behind me. I need to draw. I love drawing still. That's where I still start. Thank you, industrial design training is like, start with pen and paper. That's still there. So some parts of it are definitely different. But it's great. It's Figma. I love Figma.
Okay, so we had a student that confirmed Don Norman was who you were
Thank you.
referring.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Don't tell him I forgot his name. I mean, I've met the man several times. He's like an industry standard. I feel terrible having forgotten his name.
I've forgotten more names than I've learned, that's for sure.
I'm a faces person.
So we have a few student questions I'd like to go through, and there may be a couple that I combine to keep this in a good flow. One that we have is, how do you deal with disagreements or conflict with other designers you work with?
I guess it depends on how big it is. I will always default to escalation. Um, if I think it's responsible to loop in your manager if there's even the slight, you know, air of disgruntled, or if you think someone's going to be upset or anything like that, especially if you think that you haven't done anything wrong, pull in your manager. Like, they are there to provide protection for you. I know that sounds like they're the mafia or something. They're just there to help you, and a good manager would want you to bring them in, and then you don't have to do anything. Like, they'll take care of it. If you did something wrong, then also tell your manager, because they can protect you and they will want to. So I think the first, if it's not a huge issue, the first thing is to just talk to the other person about it. I will always recommend staying cool and collected. Like, don't yell, don't name call. These are just like common, like in any part of your life, you know, this is probably good advice. Um, but you know, I guess I would always default to like pulling in your manager. A really good manager will take care of it for you, and I think that's the first place to start.
Excellent. Excellent. I think that's really good sage advice. Um, so I think you covered a little bit of this with how you are now working, but can you discuss a little bit more how, let's say, either group projects, or are the projects split based on skills or roles, or is that something you can elaborate on?
Well, sure. Our group projects, I guess we don't have group projects. Everything is a group project, everything yet nothing, right? So when I say I own the credit card experience, my group, which we actually call pods, is a collection of people that span the entire journey of our product, right? So we have our product team, like I mentioned, they outline the roadmap. We have a designer, me. We have a copywriter that writes all the copy. We have our developers that build it, front end, back end developers. So we have project managers, product owners. So there's a whole team of people that you work with. You are responsible for, you know, your swim lane. You're responsible for what you own, and then outside of that, you need to work well with all of these people in order to successfully deliver your product, right? So every project is a group project. Get really comfortable with group projects. um, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think that gives us an idea. The idea of the pods, I think, is an interesting experience that doesn't necessarily work in the same way in other parts of the industry. And so it's kind of
Yeah,
nice to hear about that and how that affects your flow of work, I guess.
I remember when I was at HP and the industrial designers were right next to me. Um, I was not involved with them as much. I did do the front panel design a little bit there, but for the most part, they were still in a bit of a group, different though, and they had to, you know, work with our team for the front panel. They had to work with all the engineers in the back for all like the paper mechanisms. Um, you know, they had to work with the 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 people who were manufacturing it. Obviously, I mean, you guys are all in industrial design school, you know all the process, but it is still you know, a group project, in a way.
It's actually kind of, I think, more rewarding when you start
Oh my
working
god.
with people that are outside of your particular skill set. So you're able to harness and work with other experts, and you become the expert of your field. Um,
Yes, exactly.
So we have a couple of questions regarding mentors, and I'm going to phrase this as an AB. One, who is your mentor or mentors? And second, how do you recommend students finding or connecting with potential mentors?
Currently, my mentor, well, recently, he's gone off into something different. We will reconnect soon, but my most recent mentor was Jordi Murillo, which is he's now at Square, and he was my manager at HP. An amazing guy. He listens. That's probably his best quality. That is why I asked him to be my mentor. So I went to him. He was my manager at the time, and I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, he was leaving. And that's when I asked him if he would be my mentor. And he said, of course. And I set up the cadence for when we would meet, and the format, because it was my ask, right? What do I want to get out of it? I think we need to meet once every 2 weeks. I will come up with a topic that I have questions about, or if it's something that I'm working on that I want to share with you, considering NDAs and all of that, like we can talk about that. So it was totally balls in my court, and he provided feedback as I requested it. What was the other question?
Oh, I was just going to say, how do you recommend students interact or reach out to, since they're may not be directly in the workforce at the moment?
Sure. There's a variety of ways that you guys can find people, potential mentors, right? Like, yeah, gosh, seriously, even like TED Talks, just anyone that you know in the industry that is doing the things that you find admirable, works at companies that you maybe want to work at, or thinks that you think that they may have knowledge to that they can impart upon you. Hit them up on LinkedIn. Like, go and I used to email people. If you like email companies, they'll email you back, and you can get their like email structure, and then fill that in with their name. Like, mine's Megan.Landry at Experian. Email me if you want. Then anyone at Experian, you can pretty much like punch in their name with the period in between, and you'll get directly to them. And so just email people, be like, hey, this is my situation. I would love this kind of a relationship. Are you interested at all in maybe being my mentor? And as someone who's been a mentor, like, it's it's really like moving when someone wants you to, help them be better, that you have some knowledge that you can impart on them. It's an honor, truly. And I think most people would be really excited to mentor you.
We do a lot of mentor seeking in senior studio, and that is one of the challenges. Is I think a lot of the students feel like it's a big ask, and so qualifying, what do you mean? As a student, you're not necessarily looking for them to be a lifetime mentor. You just need some feedback, and if you clarify that up front, I think a lot of, like you said, a lot of people, everybody's been in that position. And so giving them an opportunity in a way that they feel comfortable, time management wise. So like I thought it was really smart that you outlined what the ask is. So it's not just an
Yeah.
open-ended, will you be my mentor? That can be kind of
What are you
time.
asking
Yeah,
of
yeah,
me? Yes.
exactly. Exactly. And some people, I think I have found the actual term mentor may be a bit imposing for several reasons. Sometimes that they don't feel like they're they have what it takes to be a mentor when they really do. So it may be their own self um, issues. The other is
Sure.
time commitment, and and when you're able to let them know, look, all I'm looking for is some feedback here. So maybe not starting with the word mentor may, they may be a mentor
And
to you and they don't ever have to have the title.
I think, yeah, right. No, 100% everything you said. I think quantify or qualifying it with like, this is what I want. This is what I'm looking for. Maybe even provide like, you know, a timeline. Like I am a junior. I would love to get through this year, even if it goes longer. Like great, like, but just, just so that they know what you're asking of them. I think some people, there are a lot of industrial designers with egos. There are a lot of people with egos. And so I
Yeah.
think a lot of people, depending on who you're asking, would love to be like, oh, I'd love to be someone's mentor. Um, don't no one's too small to appeal. So you can appeal to whatever side you want. But yeah, I think outlining what it is that you're looking for is going to be hugely helpful.
That I think these are the types of things I will probably be asking you back in at Senior Studio next semester.
I would be
So,
happy to.
um,
My ego is being stroked now,
right, right.
Landry.
We'll just stroke the ego, and yeah, that's how it works. Getting everybody in here. Designers love to talk. Um, what advice would you give your freshman self?
Oh gosh, well, my freshman at San Diego State or my freshman at Long Beach, because those were different Megans. My freshman at Long Beach, though, was, I mean, if we're looking at the talk I just gave, it's gonna be to like put yourself into many different um like not just classes, but opportunities as possible to experience as many things as you can while you're in school, right? I know you have to take these different courses, but like go hang out in different departments. Like, are we still doing like group projects with other departments, the illustration department, or pick another person from another department to have regular conversations with, like expand your mind, take other art classes if you can, give more presentations, right? Like everything on my how to supercharge your superpower sort of list. um, Maybe not a mentor if you're just a freshman, because do you even know what your major is yet at a freshman. But it's going to be about um, exposing yourself to as many different experiences as you can, and focus on your soft skills, because that is ultimately what I think is kind of what makes you valuable as an employee, as a designer, especially. Like, work on that empathy, work on those skills, work on collaboration. Like, this is what makes you, um, an amazing asset to any company, to any group, is going to be those soft skills, in my opinion.
Excellent, excellent. I think that's something that doesn't always get around to enough. We try to um, reinforce that on the edges while we're
Yeah,
trying to get across the hard skills that they have to have.
sure. That's the degree,
But
right? Ultimately.
yeah, and what I've found that's always really interesting is the soft skills are definitely what differentiates people. Because the
Totally.
skill sets you can like be on par with somebody, you know, skill for skill, and it comes down to, do you fit with whether it's the culture or how um, people are um, needing within a team, you know? So whether
Mhm.
it's that leader or somebody who really works well pulling just separate people together, the herding cats. That's an interesting one that I hear get used quite a bit. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, every one of you is going to be ultimately, right, graduating with the same skills broadly, right? Like you guys all took this class, this class, this class, and this class. And if you did all the work and you aced all the tests, then you all graduated with those same skills. You can all build a box in CAD, or you can all sketch a car, or whatever. Um, but it's everything else that makes you unique and stand out to employers than everyone else in your class. If you guys were all the exact same person, then they would just go and pick someone and okay, you come join our company. But it's the soft skills that make you stand out. It's going to be those skills that differentiate you and make you ultimately successful when you actually apply yourself at that job.
it's great. Yeah. So you seem to have in your career map found um, a way to leapfrog and learn, and that's gotten you where you are at. Is there anything that, looking back now, that you would change about your roadmap or what some of your choices have been?
Well, I know a lot of people would have probably left HP sooner before 10 years. I know that, you know, I don't want to, group everyone together, but it feels like, you know, people that are just entering the workforce today are like, staying at companies for 2 or 3 years for max, and then they're changing. Um, Old school, like your parents, their parents, probably did the 10, 15, 20 year, stretches at one company. And I would say that I probably spent too much time at HP. But like I said in the talk, is that they kept, exposing me to different roles and different things. And I kept learning something valuable and new. And it wasn't until I stopped learning some valuable things and things got stale that I was like, okay, I think my time here is done. So that's a hard one. I guess I could have left HP a little sooner, and I could have stayed at Gadlight a little longer. To be honest, I did not, those were not my people. That was not my tribe. Uh, Bring your true self. They did not like my true self. And it just was not a good fit. And so that was my time to leave. And that's important too, right? Like you're not gonna love everywhere that you work. I feel like, I probably could have stayed a little bit longer. I was young and I didn't want to stay there any longer. So I moved out. And that's when Scott hit me up and I was on that like super fast. But um yeah, I guess other than that, I've been really fortunate in my career in that when I was ready to move on or experience something different, it kind of fell in my lap. The Experian job, a coworker at HP had moved on to Experian, and she hit me up and was like, "You would be perfect for this role." And I was like, "That's great. I'm really ready to leave HP now." And so it kind of works like that. The world is a little bit serendipitous like that.
It's always kind of fun to like see what your path might have been, but knowing that you wouldn't be where you are without the path you took.
I also wouldn't be where I am if I had burned any bridges. So that is
Yeah.
hugely valuable. You may not like everyone, you may not get along or whatever, but like just don't burn any bridges. It's just not these people. You'd be shocked how um, the industry is so big and yet so small. So,
Extremely. I
crazy,
run
right?
into people. I run into people all the time
Yep.
from design school, and I'm like, oh, they're a potential client now. Eey.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
Yeah. Life is long.
I I worked well with them in college and didn't have too much of an ego or something. Um,
Yeah.
so we saw that you do hiking and a lot of uh, outdoor things, and you have some hobbies. So, how do you feel like your work-life balance is with the career you have?
Well, working remotely has certainly lended itself to better work-life balance. And we actually just did a big team retro. Um, and that was the number one reason why people are happy with their job is a better work-life balance now that everyone's remote. And I believe most of Experian is permanently remote. I used to wake up and at like, I don't know, 4:30, 5 in the morning, go on a run, go to the gym, whatever, go climbing, and then go to work and then sit in an hour and a half of traffic after that. And like, I kind of just took it in stride because that's what me and thousands of other people on the road were doing. But we have options now. I mean, I didn't need to. HP was like 25 miles from my house, as and on some really busy interstates, so it kind of sucked. But if you can, if you want to work remote and you have that option now. I did not love it at first. I actually hated it. Um, Seeing people on a day-to-day basis, it took me a long time to get used to that. So, I don't know. You can make it work for you if that's what you want. I do think there's a lot of value that you can get by working in an office, though. Um, if it was closer, right, it's up in Costa Mesa. You guys know where that is. I'm in San Diego. Experience up in Costa Mesa. I could go into the office if I really wanted to, but I enjoy my work life balance now. I can ultimately and do, I actually have clothes on today, but like sometimes I don't really like shower and get dressed until like lunchtime. I'll eat my lunch at work at my desk and work, and then I'll go take a shower because it fits into my schedule that way. And definitely not waking up at 4:30 or 5 in the morning has literally made me healthier. The stress of driving and getting up at that time was weighing on me. So much better situation now for me personally.
I think that also goes back to your finding your truthful self is really identifying what works for you. And I don't know
Sure.
everybody knows that for a while. It takes a little, like you said, you hated remote, and now you've found that it works with what balances you. Um,
100%. Yep.
yeah, yeah. We have an interesting question from a student that has noticed a lot of shift in the ID studio going to UI UX. We actually have a UX master's program in
I
at
saw
Cal
that.
State Long Beach, and they just were curious. They really don't care for UX themselves. That's not what they're into. Are they shooting themselves in the foot by not bringing that into their projects?
Not at all. Um, they, like I said, it was, I kind of feel like UX UI is the 2D version of industrial design, right? That's 3D, that's 2D. They're two different roles. If you don't want to do 2D, stick with 3D. I mean, industrial design is in and of itself a great career, and you do not ever have to design software if you don't want to, and vice versa. I never touch products. If that were true, then I would be shooting myself in the foot by not wanting to do industrial design, and that is not at all the case. I like Experian doesn't even have a three-dimensional product. Kodak and HP did, and I was in the same room as the industrial designers, and we never spoke. So no, absolutely not. I do think, it's good to expose yourself to that. Same thing with like graphic design. I think as industrial designers, as interaction designers, we should have a solid foundation in industrial design. But you don't have to go and be a visual designer or graphic designer, a logo designer or whatever. Just expose yourself to it. Play around with it. If it's not for you, move on. But don't shut it out entirely, and come back to it, because your likes and your dislikes will change over the course of your career. Like something that you maybe don't love now, that will change. UX and UI has changed. It used to be human factors engineering, which was way more engineering focused, and now it's kind of more graphic focused. It's definitely gets into the psychology of what people like and dislike and how their brains work. But my grandpa was a human factors engineer, and he designed airplane cockpits. It's hugely different from what I'm doing now. So things change. Your tastes might also.
That's very good advice. And you've got a long career ahead of you, so thinking about where your strengths are, I think, is good to harness, and keeping an eye on everything that impacts what you are strong at.
Exactly. Yeah.
You covered a little bit about something that maybe wasn't so meaningful in your career, or when you were working at GAD, that may not have been the strongest or most meaningful part of your career. What would you say is maybe your most meaningful part so far?
Well, the bulk of my career has been spent at HP, so that is by far the most important, I guess, chunk of my career, or where my career has been spent, was at HP. It is where I truly, developed as a designer. Not just having been exposed to all these different roles and responsibilities and projects and people, but like that is where I spent the last 10 years of my life. I'm 40 now, so I was about 30 when I got hired there. Those are your formative years. I mean, you never stop changing, but like you are really, you're young enough and motivated enough, but you're also still old enough where you like have a little bit under your belt. And so that is a great decade to like learn and a lot of stuff about what kind of person you want to be, what kind of designer you want to be, what you like and what you don't like, to kind of steer the rest of your career. So I would definitely say HP just in general. But yeah, I think I guess that probably answers your question, but there's so many other facets to that, is like, which projects did I work on? In fact, here, this kind of answers your previous question, which was, I'm in UI, and I designed a printer, helped design a printer at HP. It was a side project, the Skunkworks project that me and a coworker started. His superpower is big thinking, right? He can just like see the vision that needs to come out of a huge amount of information. That I am just mind blown. I can't do that at all. But that's where then I came in, right? he would get these huge visions and I would then make them happen. And so we thought about like what would happen if you just removed all the paper out of a printer. I can't remember the name of the printer. It's on the market today though, which is really freaking cool. So like, you know, even if you're in one thing, you can still explore and do these other things and expose yourself to these other things. Like it is your life, it is your career. Even if you work on certain projects or you're doing a one role, like you can do other roles too. Like ask your manager. Every manager is going to be like, yeah, put something together, show me, and then we can make something happen if I think it's viable. So HP was great in that they were open to anything I wanted to do. And I think Experian would be too. In fact, yeah, I wanted to do a new feature, and they were like, put it together and we'll test it. And we tested it. It's, you know, great. I don't know what's going to happen with it, but like, yeah, you own your career and your path. So use that to your advantage. And HP is kind of where I learned that lesson.
Great. We have a final question that I think will wrap up tonight. And this is more of a technical question, I guess, is is your workflow based on being logged on a daily basis or completing stages?
That is an interesting question. I I have an obligation. My take on it is I have an obligation to be logged on during the day, whether or not I have an urgent project or not. Like I'm going to be in front of my desk. I'm going to be here, ready to answer questions because you know, inevitably someone will be pinging me on Slack. That's what we use, and I feel an obligation to be there. My boyfriend doesn't. He's like, if I don't have, he also works in tech. He's like, if I don't have something I need to be doing, I'm going to go to ceramics. He also does ceramics. Like, I couldn't do that. I can't just go surfing at noon for 2 hours. Like, good for you. If that's how you work, great. I have a different work ethic. So you just have to feel comfortable, know what your manager expects of you. And then from there, it's really up to you about how you want to manage your time, what you're comfortable with. It would make me incredibly nervous to just have my little Slack status be blank or white or gray or whatever it is. I want that green dot, man. I feel like I'm, you know, I'm earning my keep if I'm available and working. So that's me, but it's not everyone.
Well, thank you for earning your keep here tonight, Megan.
Yeah.
We very much appreciate all your insights and sharing your journey as an alumni. Hopefully, in the upcoming semesters, we can actually get you back in on campus when it fits your schedule. And thank you for sharing with the students tonight.